Are you wondering how to pay yourself consistently, or maybe even at all, when you have variable income? I can't even do this. I just keep wanting to show you my Winkies. Okay, hi. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amber Duggar, founder of Profit for Keeps. And in today's Profit for Joy TV episode, we are going to be talking all about how to pay yourself consistently when you have variable income. How to handle it, how to actually pay yourself consistently, and how to handle those dang variable expenses. So, businesses with variable income, what does that look like? Well, it means that you don't have consistent equal amounts coming in every month, right? So that is the majority of small business, especially online business owners. You can have launches, you can have a lot of money coming in and then not a lot, or you could have some VIP days or pay in fulls and then have a lot of work to do, but not necessarily a lot of money coming in after a really big month. So these are all, I don't even want to say they're problems, right? It's just part of the game. It's part of the game of running an online business. And so I'm going to show you how you can start to streamline some of your cash flow and allow yourself to really prepare for months when you're not receiving as much money and still pay yourself consistently. So before I go into that, what I find is when people just start out with online business or any type of small business and they have been working in corporate, there is a really interesting phenomenon, and I call this a set income point. So if you were making, let's say, $4,500 take home in your corporate job before leaving and going out on your own, I see a lot of entrepreneurs strive for that number, and that's kind of what they first level out at, is that set income of whatever they were receiving before. And the problem with that is with a job, your take-home pay has already had taxes withdrawn, and you don't really have any business expenses. So the only thing you really need to keep aware of is the savings portion. And if you have retirement coming out, you already have a lot of that covered. So when you are running your own business, you have to consider the fact that you need money for business expenses, you need money to hold aside for taxes, and you still want to pay yourself consistently and, of course, be profitable. So it's going to be more than the $4,500 if that's what you were planning to do before. So if you were wanting to pay yourself $4,500 every single month and still have enough money for taxes, business expenses, and profit, it's going to be a higher number. And that's the number that we tend to not know. And so if you haven't already, make sure to download my revenue calculator. You will get your number calculated. It is such a helpful number. You can go to amberduggar.com/calculator to grab that. But this is where that comes from. So the set income point, you want to decide what that number is going to be. And sometimes it's actually more than you are expecting it to be because there are expenses that you're not thinking of as monthly expenses. And we call these true expenses. If you're interested in learning more about true expenses, just find our true expenses video. I think we'll also link it below. But it helps you to really understand how much you want to pay yourself as a first step. So let's say, just for this example, we want to pay ourselves $5,000 a month. This is going to cover all of our personal expenses. Well, if you have a launch style business where you're doing a big launch and then you don't have a lot of income come in the next few months, what I want you to consider is taking your revenue goal. So let's say your revenue goal is $20,000 a month. And you list that out, $20,000 a month, okay, and you have a launch that's a $100,000 launch. Well, if you have a revenue goal of $20,000, you can take that launch money, that $100,000, divide it by 20,000, and you're going to get 5, right? So this money could handle 5 full months of meeting your revenue goal. So if you trickle it out over 5 months, in other words, 20,000 goes through your profit first calculator each month, and then you pay yourself the 5,000, you have the money for business expenses, taxes, and profit, then you could continue to go the way you're going for 5 full months before you'd have to make additional money. That's one option. What's really a benefit about this is that you can allow yourself to really focus on the delivery of what you just launched. You can work on the next launch, etc. And instead of having that $100,000 where you just kind of go hog wild, like, oh my gosh, I have $100,000 in my bank account, you can now really think of it as, I want to pay myself $5,000. And in order to pay myself $5,000, I need to take that 100 divided by 5 because I want this to last 5 months. And then the 20,000 is going to be broken up into profit, $5,000 for owner's pay, taxes, and business expenses. Okay, so you can see where this allows you to be more grounded with really what that money means. So that's how you would handle launches. Memberships, you're going to have perhaps some pay in fulls that do like a full year if you're giving them some type of option to do a year membership. You may have people that are paying on a monthly, month-by-month basis. So you can think of that as a revenue stream, and you want to compare the actual cash in any given month to the amount of money that you are wanting to make with your revenue goal. So if you have a membership and then you also have a few one-on-one spots available, you want to just take the average of what you've been receiving in your membership and think of that as the amount that's coming in each month, and subtract that from your overall revenue goal to see how much more you need to be making in other revenue streams. And the goal here, again, is to hit or exceed that monthly average revenue goal. Because when you do that, you can pay yourself consistently. Because regardless of how much money you're bringing in, if you decide, I'm committing, even if I make $30,000 this month, I'm going to pay myself $5,000. And next month, I'm going to pay myself $5,000. So even if you don't hit your revenue goal next month, but you had money left over from the following month, you'll still be able to give yourself that consistent money. So another thing that I want to just touch on is when you have pay in fulls, consider spreading it out over the course of the amount that you are going to be working with that client. So let's say you have a client and they pay in full and they're working with you for 4 months. Consider only giving yourself a quarter of that revenue to put through your calculator, and the other 3/4 are going to be held for the subsequent 3 months. So for example, if you had a $20,000 pay in full, and you're going to work with this client for 4 months, consider giving yourself $5,000 of revenue that you would put through your calculator, and the other $15,000 you would hold. The next month you would release another $5,000. The month after that you would release $5,000, and then the last month you'd have $5,000 left. This can be really helpful so that you're not basically spending all the money up front and then having clients that you still need to work with without having any revenue come in. Another important concept here is, how do you choose how much I want to pay myself? I don't want to overpay myself. I don't want to sabotage the profitability of the business. And this is where reverse engineering your revenue goal really comes in handy, because when you clearly know how much you want to be paying yourself ideally, and then work it into a revenue goal that makes sense for the business expenses you require, the taxes and the profit, you can then look at that goal and say, okay, I'm not sure I'm there yet. What can I cut back temporarily to either get to a revenue that is consistent, and then I know how much I can pay myself based on that new calculation? Or you may decide, you know what? I think I can be really creative in figuring out how to make this extra money to really hit that new average. Do you see a common theme here? You are always in the driver's seat. You're always in control with making these decisions. I don't want you to feel dependent on a bookkeeper, or dependent on a financial coach, or dependent on a virtual CFO. These are things that, as the visionary, as strategist of the business, you want to be making these decisions for yourself. And I'm hoping, and this is the mission of this channel and the mission of the framework, and the mission of the work that we're doing here, is to empower you to make these decisions and to see that this actually is quite simple. There's not a lot of technical, complicated jargon here. We're looking at some basic principles, right? How much do I want to pay myself? How much does the business need to make to pay myself that amount of money? And then what do I need to do to make sure that I'm consistently receiving that or more on a monthly basis? That's really what we're looking at here. So just remember that when you're building up to a revenue goal that may be higher than what you're currently making, and you're choosing to still be sustainable as you do that, recognize that the mindset behind how you speak to yourself about this process is so important. So when you're thinking about, oh, I don't have enough money to pay for this, that's immediately putting yourself in a scarcity mindset, right? But if you say instead, you know what, I'm choosing to temporarily put my money elsewhere, allocate it and give it intention elsewhere, because I desire so much to run a sustainable, profitable business. And until I reach that next level, I'm gratefully choosing to not spend money here because I know that my bigger goal is to reach this next level in my business. It's so important that you view these as choices and that you are weighing opportunity cost and not feeling in the place of a victim or feeling like you can't make something happen. So here's your action step. I want you to think about how much you want to be paying yourself, and know that this can be step goals, right? You could have a certain amount you want to pay yourself until you reach that revenue, and then you could add on a few things and then create a new revenue goal for yourself. But make sure that you choose a number. And once you've done that, make sure that if you haven't already, download the revenue calculator. Again, it's amberduggar.com/calculator, and calculate your goal. And come back and just let us know. What did you find out from this process? What is your next step? I am so grateful you're here. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please consider subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, and consider sharing this with someone that you feel would really benefit from these videos that we're providing. If you are interested in learning more about becoming a profitable, sustainable business, please consider joining us in our beautiful community of cash flow savvy entrepreneurs. It's called Sweet Life Purposeful Money. And you can find out more about that at amberduggar.com/community. Until the next video, remember, money is simply a resource, and making peace with money allows you to pursue the things you enjoy with freedom. Much love to you.